Hey, did you know that Two Girls Shooting the Shit is on Instagram and Facebook? We'd love to hear your feedback, episode suggestions, or just chat with you about life. So follow, comment, and share. You can tell they're testing you. They're trying to see like if they can get a rise off of you. I play along. It depends on the circumstance, but I'll just be laughing and like I'm not gonna take the bait. No.
Are they trying to anger you? You mean like trying to get you to be that angry black woman? Hey Mo!
Hi, Em. Why are you pointing at me?
Because I want you to go first. Ladies first.
That's what he said. All right.
What are we talking about today?
All this BS that's going on.
Ooh. First of all, your earrings are super cute.
Thank you.
So what are we talking about?
We were supposed to be talking about race and like all the stuff that's been going
Race
on
part
recently.
2, 3, 4.
Right, for two race forever, ever. Shoot, at this point.
So what? So you told me last week about a 9-year-old in Rochester that got maced, and I had to look it up, and I watched the video, and I am irate. Do you hear that? There's people hammering. Yeah, the house is getting redone, so bear with me.
Real Housewives.
Not really. But yeah, I am irate. That video pissed me off.
Right?
I couldn't. Well, I
Couldn't
read
even watch
about it, and this is, I guess, where I'm coming from, because I'm having a real issue with police response to mental health and issues surrounding Black people and mental health. Because I think that is bringing two very serious and often mistreated issues together. In the case of the 9-year-old in Rochester, and Rochester's got its own problems. They got a lot going on there. But the 9-year-old, I guess her mother called and said that she was threatening to kill herself and her mother. This 9-year-old, and that's a baby. So that's obviously something that requires some sort of a therapist or somebody trained in something with mental health, because she's threatening to kill herself. And how does this baby, this child, end up handcuffed, screaming for her father? In the video, she was handcuffed already. You maced her, and she was handcuffed. What were you macing her for? Because she wouldn't get into the car. She was screaming for her daddy.
Now she really want to kill herself.
I mean, she was screaming for her daddy. Get my daddy first. Get my daddy. I want my daddy. And knowing her, she was probably, knowing just being Black in America, she was probably scared for her life getting in that car. She didn't know what was going to happen.
And she's going to have to live with that. She's going to need a lot more help than whatever the mom thought she needed before.
And that's the mom calling the police to help her, and then they hurt her baby. And that's the story too many places. Again, in Rochester, I forgot the man's name, but his brother.
People remember Henry Louis Gates getting arrested going into his own house.
Home. But again, Rochester, I want to know what's going on there, because somebody, this man called the police to help him with his brother, who was definitely in the middle of a mental health crisis. He was naked in the street, and they put a bag over his head and suffocated him, and he died. I have never heard of this. Like, why are you putting a bag? I've never heard of that.
You learned that as a kid. Don't put the bag over your head. You do it anyway, But
I mean, the police.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
What is that?
It happened before George Floyd, I think, but it wasn't talked about until after George Floyd.
Well, here locally in Walnut Creek, California, there's another occurrence, I guess you could call it, or another. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it, but Miles Hall, he was having a mental health episode, and he was trying to break into his grandmother's house, I believe, and his grandmother called the police saying that they were safe, they had left the home, but that Miles was trying to break into, I guess, their slider or something, and he had a pole. And in the 911 call, you can hear he has mental health issues, he has mental health problems, And when the police came, they were down the street, he came running with his pole, and they shot him dead. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, he has a pole, you have a gun, and you are a full street lengths away. Why are we shooting people? Like, I don't know. I mean, are there no other ways to assess, like, hey, this person has a bat, or this person has a broom handle? Like, those types of weapons don't need to be met with guns. Like, I don't, there's got to be other ways. You have a baton, you have a taser, You have your hands. You have, I mean...
But I feel like even if they did have to shoot, they don't have to shoot to kill. So it just seems by design. I mean, I don't know what other way to put it. It just seems too institutionalized, too easy. And then, what do people get? They get a paid vacation after all.
Administrative leave.
Or desk duty. Yeah. It's just, they get to live their lives. They're, and then to add insult to injury, they start getting like, everyone comes together and they get all of these GoFundMes and everything and all of these fundraisers on their behalf.
The whole conversation about defunding the police, I think, is one that needs to be further elaborated on. Because I think a lot of people hear defund the police and they think it's just take money away. They don't fully understand.
Yeah, reallocate. Yeah. Whoever came up with that
terrible
probably should have gotten some sign off.
Yeah, but there's a lot. Yeah. I'm not by any means saying that being a police officer is easy. Because I know it's not. It can't be.
It's not.
You're charged with the care and the safety of a community. And
and let's not, there's a reason why we've had an increase in police officer suicides.
It's hard. I know it's hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I hope that, especially like the Blue Lives Matter people or whatever, like they need to understand that we all know that policing is a tough job. We all know that it's a necessary job, right? Nobody's out here, I don't know if people are, but I am not advocating for any kind of NWA activities or whatever.
No.
Obviously. But I think that...
I just want you to do your job so you don't have those activities, right?
And do it with, minimal casualties. Just the idea that somebody with the training that a police officer straight out of the academy gets is called on to respond to a domestic violence issue with what level of training do they have for a mental health crisis, for, again, domestic violence? Those are the most violent calls that they get. Like, what training do they have? They need more, or they need to have an expert or somebody on board. Who was the dude on SVU? He was a therapist or whatever. You need a therapist there. Everybody needs a therapist. But somebody's got to be there to assess the situation. Somebody with the knowledge or expertise.
But just think of them. And what that made me think of is think about all of these young people just got into the academy. They're ready to go out and enforce the law and everything. And they probably didn't deal with their own stuff. So how are they going to be? A lot of these people, they haven't dealt with their own stuff and they're projecting it onto other people like society and people who aren't even criminals, who haven't even had a trial and got death. And so it's like, no one talks about that, and it's seen as a weakness to seek help for your mental health, and it's just like, why is that?
So, anyways, Mo, it is Black History Month.
Yeah, I don't yes, Black History Month. I feel like people want a cookie, because it's Black History Month and they acknowledged it. It's like, okay, what are you actually doing to acknowledge Blacks and our contribution and our history? Like, you're not doing anything. Your brain is still operating the same, and you're doing this. It's like almost like what they call like performative narcissism. Like, look at me, supporting the Black lives.
You said supporting the Blacks. I have a lot of questions about language and how we speak about people, groups of people. Are you on the political correctness train? Where are you at as far as...
well, obviously, having said the Blacks, I think not.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because when you said, and this is a thing that is very hard to explain to non-Black people, or maybe just people of color have an understanding versus people who are white. But like when you said the Blacks, it didn't hit me funny. But when like Trump said his blacks, the Blacks, it made me feel sick. You know what I mean? So, I said last time that we have to be very intentional about Black history or speaking about Blackness or race. I wonder if that's part of it. Language, how we refer to ourselves, how people refer to us, what's acceptable. How do you feel about the term African American?
For me, I feel like that's just trying to take away from my nationality, that I was born in America. Like, don't try to take away my nationhood and then you go to Africa. That's a continent.
Yes.
So what does that even mean? So are we going to call anyone who's white European American?
Well, we do say Asian American. We do say, I don't know what else we say. Asian, What else do we say? Wait a minute. Because all I'm thinking of right now is African American, Asian American. Maybe it's because I'm
African American and Asian American.
But do we say Latin American? I mean, what do we call other people?
Yeah, that's not even considered a race. So if you ever look at the paperwork, it's like white, not Hispanic. So we say Hispanic,
right,
for that.
Okay.
But you get to also get a race as well. You get two.
African American never sat right with me. I know that it's used
Same.
in intellectual speak. Like when I was in college, that's when it was really like African American, African American studies.
I think,
But I
think it was to get you like to have that pride in the continent, since there's no way to know where you're from because of. Well, there wasn't 23andMe and all this stuff. And so it kind of just became a way of self-empowerment. And then somewhere, and it's kind of like everything good, it's always something happens and it ruins it for everyone, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that something was.
I'm more comfortable with the term Black.
Yes, I love it. And I feel like people, they have an aversion. Like,
Yeah.
you want to talk about colorism, people don't like Black. We talked about this in another episode about how people, your mama's so Black,
Yeah.
or you're so Black, and it's just like, why is that? I think Black is beautiful. I love it.
But just the term is fine. I'm just talking about,
term.
I mean, I know it encompasses a whole set of meaning and everything. But
just like we were talking about, words have meaning.
Yes,
so
girl,
like,
they do.
What is being attached?
Well, how about colored?
That makes me laugh.
Because I've heard that. I've heard that within the last 10 years in my home.
It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I'm sure you have. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, colored. I think it's ridiculous.
Like, I don't let things, like, it doesn't bother me because it's, obviously there's something wrong. Like, there's a disconnect. That person doesn't have a full understanding.
Like, they're not
so
in reality. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just in the sunken place. I'm not going to deal with that,
sunken place.
Like,
that movie was amazing once I wrapped my head around it and realized, took it in for what it was.
Like, it's so funny because
we're talking about Get Out, by the way.
One of my adopted moms, like one of my moms I claim, she thought it was a compliment to call me a negress. She was like, "You beautiful negress." And
is she white?
Like, yes.
No, girl, mama, no.
But I wasn't even mad about it, like, because I knew her enough to know, like, yes, she probably didn't mean it in the most positive way, but I can also see where she was coming from. She's, that's just.
But she knew
she
really knew not to use the N-word with the ER, right? So why would she think that?
No, but that's what I'm saying. She said, because in her mind it was like goddess and Black woman, like. So
did you say something? Okay. Did you correct her?
No, I just laughed.
So is she out there in the world calling people negress?
No, because it became a running joke. Because everybody was making fun of her because it was so wrong. Not wrong, but it was. Just
it's wrong.
No
awareness.
Yeah. But it's like, why are you going to get upset because someone has no awareness? Why,
it's not. I don't get upset. This is the point that I always have when I have race conversations with people who are white. Is I'm not mad. First of all, I mean, I may get...
Well, why?
No, but I may get passionate. I'm very passionate about this. This has
Mm-hmm.
been a huge part of my life experience, my empathy and my sympathy for people who have gone through a lot of things in their life that many white people will not... I had to whisper that. I don't know why. But many white people will not understand. They will never experience it, And so I do get passionate about it, but I'm not mad at anybody. Like, I'm not mad at you for not understanding. I may get mad at you for not wanting to continue a conversation when you get frustrated. Like, pull your big boy pants up and let's continue the conversation. It's uncomfortable. Let's get past the discomfort to a place of mutual understanding. Like, we don't, It's a privilege to be able to get frustrated and walk away from a topic that has nothing to do, or doesn't impact you in the same way. But I'm not mad. If you don't understand and you say negress, or you say something and you don't understand the implications or the meaning behind it, which I think is stupid. Like, don't say something if you don't know what you're saying. Like, that's just my general rule in life or whatever, is like, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to say I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you don't understand, I'm here. I'm not here to be your teacher, but if you're a friend or a loved one of mine, I will, of course, have a conversation with you and try to find a meeting of the minds, I get mad when I've told you and and I know and you still acting stupid. That's when I get mad.
Yeah.
But... I mean, people can be... That's another thing that makes me upset, is I can't be passionate without being told I'm angry I'm a passionate woman.
So are you mad about being told you're being mad?
No, I'm just even more impassioned.
So, race,
Mm-hmm.
gender, that's what I wanted to talk about when we were talking about the 9-year-old. Why is it, they keep having studies about little black girls and how people feel no empathy for them. Why is that?
Well, they don't care about black grown-up women. So they probably care even less about the smaller versions of ourselves, It's really sad.
It is so sad. Even if a kid is precocious, that's still a kid. Being in the city and you see a lot of these kids, are maybe 8 or 9 years old and they have this demeanor like they're a grown woman. But that's probably how they were raised in, society and all of these different things.
Yeah.
There's still a child, and I'm still going to acknowledge that you're a child.
Yes.
And I think that's the problem. People want to treat these kids like adults. And I think I mentioned this in one of our other talks, is that I went to an elementary school where people were pregnant, at 11 years old. And so it's almost like this factory farming kind of thing, like the factory farm of the black woman.
Well, I want to know,
that's still going.
How do you think that happens? Do you think that it's, and that's not a loaded question, I'm just like, how do you think that happens? Do you think that it's more prevalent amongst young black girls? Or is it a socioeconomic situation? Is it a race issue? Is it a family dynamic? What do you think are the contributing factors to,
I think it's a combination.
Pregnancy at that age.
Yeah, because it definitely happens, because I also knew a 14-year-old, she was white, and she was getting married. All her parents had to do was sign off, and then she could get married.
And that was fine? Oh.
Yeah, that was completely fine. Yeah.
Oh, did she choose her husband, or was it somebody like?
Yeah,
it
was a guy. I don't know the story. And like, this was like 7th, 8th grade. So,
girl, that makes me sad. These are again white, black, whatever.
So
they're
maybe
children.
It's the South.
Yeah, maybe y'all got some extra going on.
I remember when I was in 10th grade, there was a guy. I don't know what he was. He was East Asian. And he got emancipated like at 16. So he was living in his own bachelor pad and everything. And,
at 6, he's living the life. That's what every 16-year-old.
Yeah. But it kind of like, I think about it, and it's like we were talking earlier about the police and like the lack of training for mental health. Well, there's no different. The one thing that is constant is these were all military places,
where you were
places that
up.
had a strong, military presence. And they definitely didn't. I don't know what they do now, but they definitely didn't value mental health. It's almost seemed like people were robots. And, that's and look at all the people who had PTSD and all of these things who are just thrown out. They're still out there.
Yeah.
It just makes you understand, like, there's so much work to be done. And it's just like, I can't imagine the world if everyone just did the work. Like, why is it that it's always somebody taking something from you or doing something? We can really coexist. Like, but no, that'd be too easy.
I think they're trying to put more of a focus on mental health now. I mean, I think especially with COVID,
I hope so.
I know that there's been more of a push. I know Michelle Obama worked a lot on it with Dr. Biden, dealing with the veterans that were coming back with PTSD and making sure that they had therapy, because the suicide rates are astronomical. And I think also just commercials with celebrities. We talked about celebrity influence and stuff like that in politics, but celebrities for Talkspace. I don't know anything about it. I'm not plugging it, but Michael Phelps or Demi Lovato, like famous people saying, "Hey, sometimes you need to talk."
Or what's
to
her name? Taraji P. Henson came out about PTSD and everything, and so that's something people need to see, especially like being a black woman. Like, it is safe to get therapy to take care of your mental health.
Right. Okay, so if we're talking about mental health, there was an episode of This Is Us, and I really want to have my therapist friend on to discuss this too, but Randall had a therapist that he saw, and he had to stop seeing her, especially after George Floyd and all of this stuff, and he really needed to find a black therapist. Like, do you think that's important to have a therapist that has lived similar experiences to you, for you guys to have a conversation? Do you think that's helpful? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it has. I think it depends on your issues. So he had identity issues. Right. He was adopted and all of these different things. And a lot of the trauma that existed in his life was racial. Mm-hmm. And so he's seeing that, and he's not, he's just in the beginning stages of, healing. that's a constant trigger. That's a constant reminder. I think he just wanted someone who could kind of understand, because he's so uptight too, where he can just let that one layer off, and just, and then maybe he'll have a breakthrough. Like, he's got a way to go, though.
That's a good way to put it, though. It is one layer. And that is another piece of privilege. It's another layer that we have to shed and get through to get to the human issues.
It's almost like a defense mechanism. Like, you have your shield,
right? Or it's just one more battle you have to fight. We all have battles that we fight as humans: anxiety or trust issues or just life experiences. But then, then there's the next layer. There's another layer. There's a layer of being a woman and having to deal with those things. There's a layer about race or sexual orientation, maybe, or identity. Like, every little way that you can be quote unquote different from what is the norm, let's say, which we've always talked about is a heterosexual Christian white male type person, right? Anything that puts you off of that is another layer that you have to dissect, understand. Yeah, that's a layer. I like that.
And so he had that, because
we're spicy onions.
Yeah, because remember, he was like almost putting on a show, and he would make me mad. I can't stand shows like that. That's why I can't watch soap operas and stuff, because it's just like, get it out. But he was like, he had this whole thing. He's like, I'm going to go and trick the therapist, and then,
and she saw right through it, though.
Ego.
She saw right through it.
Well, yeah, because he was so high in his ego. But I think once all of that happened, he started to crack it a little bit. It started cracking, and he finally was vulnerable enough to say, what am I doing? Why am I putting on this show? Yeah. Like, this isn't working for me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and just go through the motions, but I do want to get help. And so then he did all of those different interviews and stuff, and he kind of found one who he felt could understand his struggles, So I thought that was cool. For me personally, I haven't, like, I've had a Black therapist, but, she's like 15 years younger than I am or something like that.
That's interesting.
And then, but my therapist was a woman of color. So she was like biracial. And so just being a woman and just having some kind of understanding of the Black experience really, helped me shed those layers for myself. Or we can just get into, it's kind of like the him downstairs. Like, you don't have to.
I said that to my dad. I said that to my dad last night. He knew exactly what I was talking about. He said, right? Oh, Bernie Mac. He said, messed around and got a show and some success. And then he went too early. He was like, yeah. But
he was
on the way up.
Like, those were the time. Yeah, but it's just those unsaid things that you just get through. You don't have to waste your time and your copay going through. And so I feel like if I didn't have even Black doctors, like, my health has improved having Black doctors, or not even doctors, because I go to nurse practitioners. Doctors are another story for me. Just having that, my health has improved, my physical health, my mental health. And it's because people understand there's not this, I don't even know what it's called, but there's some kind of seeing yourself in other people. I think we have, it's kind of like the ego thing. Like we talk, like you want to identify. So you're always looking for yourself. And so I feel like maybe that's what it is. And because you go to school, you take anatomy classes, but then there's some things that are, not going to be covered, like on Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, I was thinking that too with Owen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm always talking about that with like technology, like especially like the hand washers, it's like, okay, there's biases set in this because it's not trained to recognize something this dark.
Dang.
And so that's at school, people aren't trained.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if you're in this tunnel vision, this is all you know, then it's not your fault. I mean, the books didn't teach it. Now we're just finally understanding the meaning of diversity. I think people thought, and unfortunately people like your boy Clarence Thomas.
My boy.
Thought.
Girl? My who?
Thought that something, that even though he benefited, which I don't understand, but he's against affirmative action. I think he thought that like diversity meant just a quota, just a number. But it's so much more, because you learn, wait, if I do this, I will literally kill this person. So,
and that's also why diversity, as far as not just instruction and teaching people about things, but just the representation, doctors of color, lawyers of color, nurses of color, teachers of color, because they know things.
Social workers.
Oh my goodness. But like, going back to that Grey's Anatomy, the Asian doctor knew about the Asian, statistics for whatever that ailment was. And a lot of times you will know what impacts you, so whether or not it was taught, he knew because he probably falls into that category. Black people are more likely probably to know about sickle cell anemia. Jewish people are more likely to know about Tay-Sachs and stuff like that. Like, Tay-Sachs, yeah. So it's something, you know what you know because you live it, or you've got family members who have it, or stuff like that. So it's just having more representation in all of these fields. It's important, not only for the younger generations coming up and seeing themselves in somebody who's in a position of success or accomplishment, but just as far as effectively servicing people and the community.
Right. And effectively getting service, right? And not having to die, like that would be nice. So it's just I don't know where to start. I can talk about it all day. Like, I feel like there has to be some kind of solution.
For racism?
It doesn't start with teaching the next.
For what? Solution for what?
For racism.
Woo.
For racism, for hatred. But it's that feeling of we always have to have the need to be right, to feel superior to someone. Yeah, to feel like we're on top. And it's just like, why is that? Why is that the nature of humanity? I was thinking about that in the context of school. I think we were talking, maybe it was with you, and about how they have superlatives, most likely to succeed, blah, blah, blah. And, they're putting these labels on people, and then, you have the valedictorian. Now, I'm not saying I'm one of those people who believes that you should be, everybody gets first place.
No.
But what I do believe is, if everyone is high quality, you don't need a curve. You just need it. Like, if I have a 99, you made a 99. If 10 people made a 99, they made a 99. We'll check, make sure there was no cheating or whatever. For me, that's a sign of success.
I didn't understand
if you have
that.
A lot of
the whole curve process is just like, for what?
Why? Yeah, for the ego, to stroke them ego. And if you can take this into the workplace too, you can't take the ideas of this superlative system and only one first place into the workplace. Because I'm sorry, I will never feel like someone is my competition in my workplace, because
it's
in
a
my
team
mind,
environment.
If you're doing well, I'm doing well. Let's go make this money, okay?
Well, I think there's two ways to look at it. I do think when you're in school, you should acknowledge the valedictorian. It takes a lot, to do that, to get whatever grade. I think there should be acknowledgement for accomplishment. I don't believe.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think you shouldn't acknowledge it.
I don't know about the superlatives.
But I'm saying if two people had the same thing, what do they do? The valedictorian and the salutatorian.
Salutatorian, yeah. But you would have two if you had the same GPA. They would both be valedictorian.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How would that be? Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't pick whatever. But I don't think the solution is doing away with acknowledging people who have achieved success. I don't think that that's the solution, because that disincentivizes.
But what do you mean that's the solution?
I said I don't think that's the solution to.
Yeah, but did I say it was the solution?
I don't know. What are we talking about? I don't even know what we're talking about. I mean, I don't even find it problematic. I really don't. Growing up, to me, it was something that pushed me harder, was to get that acknowledgement. It does feel good to have people acknowledge that you're, hey, you're a good mom.
Well, that's your whole
you're
life.
Doing great.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think anything good comes from saying we can't have a first, second, third place or a winner or but I think the way that we're teaching it needs to change.
Yeah, because I never said that we shouldn't have a first, second, or third. What I'm saying is if you have 10 people who are first rate, top number one quality, you're doing something right.
Of course.
But we set up these fake things that don't have any say. And you can take this back to race.
Like what? I need an example.
Because, that's what I'm giving.
Okay,
because you take, for instance, we were talking about the white privilege or something like that. So you're coming into the race, okay, and you are already 5 steps ahead, just coming into the race. You're on a
field.
You're on a 5-meter dash or whatever. Yeah, track and field. So you're already far ahead, and you start to feel some type of way because you're already ahead. And so then you start expecting things to happen because they've been happening.
Right.
And then you become an adult, and the whole world is set up for your success. And so I feel like, what did you have to do outside of exist? And then a lot of people don't understand when you talk about privilege and things like that, because they think, I struggled in the street. It's not that. It has nothing to do with struggling. It just means that that's the privilege you got due to your race. You still may have socioeconomic issues. You still may have mental health issues. You still may have family issues. You still have problems, and we're all human beings. Right. And like, I feel like people who say Black Lives Matter are the ones who really mean all lives matter. Like, it's just another way of saying right. All lives matter. And it's like,
well, I mean, all lives do matter, but right now there's a crisis with, that's the whole point of it, is there's a crisis amongst Black lives not mattering. So that's why we need to say it louder, that we matter.
Exactly.
Right.
And we need other people to say it too. And I want to get to the bottom of it. It's like, we're in this virus. We're the number one people dying from it. And then, but we're also the number one people shooting up each other. Like, what's that about?
I want to follow up on what you were saying, though, because you were talking about privilege and being ahead in the race and starting to expect things and having this expectation of continued success, continued opportunity, whatever. And it brings me back to
in the world, and you're getting the feedback, the positive reinforcement.
But it brings me back to that idea of slavery is not our history. How we got over it is our history. Slavery is the history of white people.
We haven't gotten over it.
Well, we're not being whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Chattel slavery is.
Yes, but what I'm thinking about too is, and this is why I think conversations nowadays are sitting funny with me. Is white privilege, again, I feel like it's been made an issue for us. We need to inform people. We need to fix. I feel like a lot of the fix is on us to do.
Yeah, Black women, don't you know?
We hold it up society.
The mule of the earth.
But it feels, that's what it feels like, is when you were talking about white privilege and this idea that they have this expectation and they're waiting for more benefits and stuff to come to them, whereas we have to try 3, 4, 5 times as hard to catch up because we got somebody's knee on our neck, or we got somebody keeping funding from our schools, or incarcerating people at a higher rate for smaller, petty crimes. Yeah. So there's a lot extra that we or our children are expected to do to catch up with these privileged kids.
And then it's always some kind of, like, I hate when people say, oh, well, I appreciate diversity, but you're going to have to get it. You're going to have to make those good grades, and like everybody else, you're going to have to be qualified. And it's like, just by saying that, by saying that, you are saying what you are saying is that if someone of color is able to get a position, that person's not qualified. Do you hear what you're saying? Yeah. And I can't stand to hear that. So if someone ever said that, like, no, just don't.
And these are all based on,
why is it always
stereotypes?
I mean, but it's sometimes I wonder if it's true. I mean, look at Clarence Thomas.
Lord, you love him. Girl, you love Clarence Thomas. Woo! You want him all around your Coke can. Ew. Ew, David. I love that show.
What show is that?
Schitt's Creek? Girl, please.
Oh, I don't watch it.
Please watch that.
I'll try. Oh my gosh. I don't have the patience for this stuff.
I love it. I hated some of them at first, and then I was just like, I gotta keep watching. It's pretty good.
Okay. Get it, girl. Okay. You've reached them ancestors. Yes. Get it.
I always used to say, like, I can't sing. This is all the stereotypes. I can't sing. I can't dance. I have no booty. That was me growing up.
Same. I mean, I can sing.
I was like, I don't.
Thank God.
I said I didn't get any of the good, beautiful qualities of either side. Whatever that means. I don't even know anymore.
I know. Anything else?
I don't know. I don't know, girl.
But that's another thing, like you were saying, like about how people think you're angry when you're not. I think that has been a constant struggle for Black women. It's because we have to protect ourselves, and then we have to hold up society, and we have to do all of these things and then still be dainty,
No, nobody's expecting us to be dainty. That's the thing.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's the thing, is nobody...
That you didn't let me finish my thought. That's what I was saying, is that we don't have that expectation. We are doing all of these different things, holding up the world and experiencing things. A lot of Black women haven't gone to therapy or don't, I don't have the numbers, but I'm just going from experience that I've had personally. So this is completely anecdotal, but just not even seeking therapy, living in a lot of pain. And a lot of that comes off as like defensiveness and anger. You get the angry Black woman. No one's digging deeper into why that's happening.
But I also think that some of that is put on you before you even open your mouth.
Exactly.
Like
we talked about earlier.
And I do think there's a comparison, and this is historic. You can look back, the honor of white women must be protected. This is why Black men were hanging from trees. Mm-hmm. Emmett Till got pulled. All these things.
A kid, yeah.
Because there was something honorable and valuable and something that needed to be protected in white women that is not present for Black women by comparison. So, there wasn't an honor. Black women were raped a lot by white men who hated Black people. Did
you know?
Go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't know that in the 30s or 50s or something. I should have looked it up. Let me look it up. You can continue.
Yeah, no, I read a book. I had a professor in law school. She did race in the law. This is one of my favorite professors. She did race in law and constitutional law, and she's just super brilliant. But she recommended Dark End of the Street. It's a book. I can't remember the author, but it is. It's about rape of Black women. Through Jim Crow, through that whole period of time there, and just
exactly same. That's what I was going to say. Yep.
Just a lot of the things that were going on. I think we're talking about Black history, and I'm concerned also that we aren't talking about the history of Black women, because just like there's feminism, and how they're saying there's her story, there's also a different history for Black women too. A lot of it surrounding sexuality and rape and objectification, along with having to raise the families, having to be there when, every man is being
and having to
arrested
spend more
whatever.
time.
Yes.
Yeah. With other people's kids. And I still see that in Brooklyn. You see that, like a lot of women,
caregivers,
Black women nannies. Are, taking care of other people's children, spending more time in the day than with their own children. So that is still going on.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's just like, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it'll ever be fixed. But what I do want to figure out is, how can I live? How can I live?
We talked about this off recording or whatever, but the concept of modern day lynchings, I feel like a lot of the things we talk about in history, although they are not happening today, are happening in a different, more modern way. Like they found a way to twist something that's happened before into a new way, something that fits the society now that's still oppressive. Men, I know it's happened, but not the way it used to. Black men are not hanging from trees anymore with white crowds watching like it was entertainment. Now we are watching the videos online of Black men being choked out by the police or shot or whatever. But it's all online. So it's a different forum. It's a different
But the
medium.
Same thing. And girl, I was just thinking about that. And we're still in the same throwing bread and bananas at people with this whole cancel culture and everything and this whole social media. It's like the same. We have not evolved.
No. We've just adapted.
At all.
We've just adapted.
Adapted, exactly.
Cancel culture. Girl, I have a lot of feelings about that.
Same. So many.
I don't know. Ugh. I think we've gone a little too far. That's just me. But.
Yeah. Who set up the rules? If you're coming from a kind heart, and that's going back to my niggers
every time you say that, it kind of catches me off guard a little bit. Like, oh, say what?
Yeah. I knew where she was coming from. I knew her, like, that woman would probably, she would give me the shirt off her back if she needed it. I can't say many Black people who would do that. So I look at the energy of things versus the words on their face. And I think that's why, like, we always get back and forth, because I can't really articulate it. I hate words. But it's like the energy of the action or the word or the emotion behind the word.
Yeah, it definitely matters whose mouth it's coming out of. Not that it's right in the general sense.
Exactly.
But, I dated somebody whose dad said the N-word a lot. Not a lot, but enough for me to feel uncomfortable. But I knew he was a sweet person.
Yes.
He was a good man. Grew up around that probably, and that's just what it was. But So I wasn't angry at him. That's what I'm talking about. Like, the anger isn't placed where I know that you are open.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But
yeah, I wasn't angry, but yeah, she knew it was wrong, and she's, I didn't mean it that way kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I was laughing at is, I completely forgot about this. What would you have done? I think I told you this story because I think we related to it with your your Serena Williams story.
Did I even share that? I don't think I ever shared that.
You did. I don't know if you shared it. I don't know if you published it. But
Yeah. No, I didn't publish it. Okay, but go ahead.
Oops. So I met a guy on Match.com ages ago. That just goes to show how long Match.com has been out. And I mostly date white guys. So he was a white guy, like a teacher, and it was in between our first and second date.
Okay.
Like, our first date was just like a coffee date. Uh-huh. And then we were going to meet up like at a sports bar or something in Hollywood to watch the game. And I don't remember what we were talking about, but he just went, like, he looked crazy. Like, he had that like punk rock hair and stuff and like leather jacket look. He just completely shifted and he said something like, yeah, my in. And I was like,
he said the word?
Yeah, he said the word.
No.
And I was like,
no.
Oh shit! So that's 3 times I've been called.
To you? He said it to you?
Yeah, we were talking on the phone, and it's like we were about to meet up that afternoon to watch the game, or the following afternoon. Like, why did he like?
Why?
And he thought it was cool. He was like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to go." And you could hear his voice crack. His voice cracked. Like, it was just like he was like, "Oh no!" I mean, it could have been a teachable moment, but that wasn't my job.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that just has layers. You know me. I always, you shouldn't make assumptions, but I can pull a few layers from that. If you're saying that, you have a lack of self-awareness and a lack of understanding about a lot of things.
Yep.
So. He thought, like, he probably, I don't know if he had ever dated a black woman before or what, but I think he was just trying to relate in the worst. I hate that kind of stuff.
That's awkward.
Luckily, it was on the phone.
You can always tell, though, whether or not I feel like someone's dated a black woman before. You can definitely tell when they haven't.
Yeah.
So that's always interesting. That date you were talking about was some Irish dude off Plenty of Fish, because I didn't published it last time, so I'm just going to tell everybody real quick since we're talking about this. He was from Ireland, and he was a little bit older than I was. I was like in my 20s, I don't know, mid-20s. And we met up. We'd been chatting on Plenty of Fish for a bit. We met up at like this Irish pub. It was the Dubliner, I believe, in Long Beach. Anyways, we went there. We were going to have dinner, and I show up.
You were gonna.
Yeah, we were gonna have. We did have dinner. It was a very quiet dinner. But I show up. He gets there. I'm taller than him, and I am not that tall. I'm 5'6", 5'7", and he started making some comments that were so uncomfortable. I remember him saying something like, "Oh, I don't like hip hop."
Okay.
At that time, I was
don't either.
heavy in some country music, so great. What does that have to do with me?
Yeah, we were going to Coldplay concert.
Right? Yeah, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm about. Hip hop. Okay. And that already sat funky with me. And that was like just at the beer phase of the date. We each had like a Guinness or something, and that was it. And then he said something, "You look like somebody." And I was like, "Oh, really?"
Oh, God.
Trying to be friendly and open, knowing that he had already made a hip hop comment. But he's like, "You look like one of those tennis players, the tennis sisters, whatever. The one she's really good at tennis." I do not look like either William's sister, right? I am not built like either of them, although I am very envious of Serena's body, let me tell you. But he didn't say it in a complimentary way. He said it, like, one, you don't look like what I expected you to look like, which is ridiculous because my pictures were of me, obviously. But it was meant to be derogatory or insulting. Anyways.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you ever dealt with that? Like, have you ever gone out with a guy or gone like to a bar or something like that, a social scene, and then you can tell they're testing you. They're trying to see like if they can get a rise off of you. I play along. It depends on the circumstance, but I'll just be laughing and, like, I'm not going to take the bait. No.
Are they trying to anger you mean? Like trying to get you to be that angry black woman?
Yeah. And I feel like people want to get a rise out. And so that's what I was going to go back to. Speaking of angry black women, like, are we jumping to conclusions? Like, maybe should you have said, like challenged him? Why do you think I look like those people? Should I have challenged the guy?
I would now.
What?
Maybe that's part of it. I would
you...
now. I would say, I'm sorry. What do you mean by that? And I remember I had an issue.
Because it could have been an
issue with somebody closer, like family, that I told you about that made me very uncomfortable. And you said, oh, well, then you should push back and ask, what do you mean by that? Very unthreatening like. And so I think that's what I would do now. And just say, I do. Oh,
Because then people will kind of think twice before they
should.
Don't think,
They should. Or think once. They'll think once before they say something stupid. Yeah. I mean, it's not our job to instruct and to educate, but it wouldn't hurt to just drop a little, maybe you should think about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this has to be give or take. You can't expect people to learn on their own. If that's the case, why do we have school? Like, It doesn't work that way. They do need some pebbles. If you don't have the space, set good boundaries and let people know that you don't have the space.
Yeah.
Well.
There's a little something about race and mental health and,
Life. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, always life.
It's about that time. I need to go feed my children.
And I got to go to therapy. All right, girl.
It's been real.
It's been real. Bye.